Order, are we in compliance with the open meeting law?
Yes, we are.
This meeting has been posted in various locations throughout the city. We'll go to the first item that we are considering, and that is abeyance item Bill number 2008-17. It establishes new regulations for cable television operators and other video services providers consistent with NRS Chapter 711 as amended, is proposed by Mark Vincent, Director of Finance and Business Services. Can we please have a summary of this item?
Well, this was heard before. It was held until today. I don't know of any updates. Do you know of any updates, Councilman Breiler?
Yes, I do. I've been in contact with Mr. Steve Shore, the representative of Cox Communication, and he asked that we obey this until the June 3rd recommending meeting to give himself as well as our legal counsel an opportunity to work out the logistics of the wording, and they should be ready by June 3rd recommending meeting. And so for that, that would be my recommendation.
So the recommendation is to obey this until
June 3rd recommending.
That's the motion. All in favor?
Aye.
The motion passes. We move to the next item, Bill number 2008-22, Levies Assessment for Special Improvement District 1516, Fremont Street Maintenance District, Las Vegas Boulevard to 8th Street, sponsored by, it's a step requirement.
This is a standard SID levy ordinance. Everything's in order. We recommend approval.
Any comments from the audience? Your pleasure,
Okay.
Mr. Councilman.
I would like to move for approval of item Bill number 2008-22 to move to the full body of the City Council.
All in favor?
Aye.
And the motion passes. We now move to the next item, 5, Bill number 2008-23, Levies Assessment for Special Improvement District number 1485 Alta Drive, Rancho Drive, to approximately 275 feet west of Lacey Lane. It's for landscape maintenance for the year 2009, and it's a step requirement.
Again, committee, this is a standard SID levy ordinance, although it's a landscape maintenance annual rather than the typical ones, but everything is in order. Recommend approval.
Have we had any contact from the neighbors concerning the rate hike?
Do you know if anybody's protested those?
I haven't heard any protests on this item.
This is Patrick Murphy from the SID office.
Right, I remember Pat. Okay, we had evidently a call from the manager, the one who's managing the land that the Winds purchased. We explained to him in our office the situation and that this was set. Their concern was that it's assessed by total number of acres rather than frontage. But this is something that was done before I came on the board quite some time ago. And that's, we were told by the legal counsel when we checked it that could not be changed. And even if we brought it out, I'm sure all the other neighbors would want to keep it the way it is. So that's where we are. Do you want to make a motion? Oh, wait. Anybody in the audience wanting to make any comments? Anybody else from staff? Pat, did you?
Thank you. Pat Murphy with Public Works. As you're aware that this levies the assessment for the fiscal year 2009, and the items are in order, and staff does recommend approval.
Could I ask you, Pat, on this SID?
Certainly.
My understanding is there is a possibility that if we get some money back, we can work it through finance. If we get monies back from the use of the water, that we might be able to lower next year's.
We've had some discussion on what we would do if there were any type of rebates. And as you're aware, we have been working with the water district, but that's something that we're in the process of working on.
So we don't know yet, but we're still looking at it.
That's correct, yes,
I'd
ma'am.
also like to say that the maintenance company you have is far, far, far better than the one you had previously out there. They're out there, they're doing a good job. We still have a number of plants missing that haven't been replaced. There's bare areas, and I'm assuming that will be done. Am I assuming correctly?
Yes, ma'am, they're in the process of replacing the plants that were damaged.
Well, it
and-
looks healthy, and you know, for 18 months or more, it's really looks sick, so that's wonderful.
We've been keeping an eye on it ourselves, and we're happy with the results.
Well, it looks good.
Thank you.
Anybody else want to make any comments? Mr. Councilman?
Yes, move for due pass, bill number 2008-23.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. The motion passes. We move to the next item. Bill number 2008-24 amends the Town Center Development Standards Manual in various respects. It's sponsored by Councilman Stephen Ross.
Yes, committee. I was hoping that planning would be here to present this, but I will go ahead and attempt to do that in their absence. Most of this is cleanup. It's changing a few ordinance references that have changed. It's updating some of the maps and diagrams. Very little of it is substantive, meaning it's just to make it easier to administer. The two substantive things that are happening are on pages 5 and 6. Those are sections 28 and 29. 28 adds a temporary real estate sales office provision that's similar to what we have in our Title 19. And then on top of page 6, as part of that same section, we're adding a provision for special event signs that in many respects is similar to what's in Title 19. There are some provisions that are specific to Town Center about penalties. Apparently there's a concern that some of the special event signs might be left up too long or not in compliance, and so this provides for some civil penalties for those signs that are put up or left up out of compliance. I should indicate also that I forgot that Section 29 repeals the provisions of the manual that provided for the, what's that thing called, the CHARC?
Oh, the CHARC Committee, Centennial Hills Architectural Review Committee.
Right. Apparently that has outlived its usefulness, and now the proposal is to run everything through the standard zoning process, so that board will be eliminated under this provision. Jennifer Lazovich is here. She wanted to propose a change to the special event signage, and so if you're interested in hearing from her, she'll present that this time.
Good afternoon, Jennifer Lazovich, 3800 Howard Hughes Parkway, here today representing one of the shopping centers out in Town Center, the Village at Centennial Springs. We have been working with Councilman Ross on this concept, and the concept that we're asking to amend is in the temporary signage section. We would like to add, Val will correct me if this is the wrong word to use, but perhaps an exemption to the maximum time limits that would be allowed for what I term, and this term does not have to be used in the ordinance, but community event type signs. That would be, by way of example, a farmer's market or a blood drive or a movie night. It would not advertise for a business that's on the premises, although the banner would be on premise for something that was happening interior to the center that might just be seasonal. For example, farmers markets tend to be in the spring and the fall. Movie nights tend to be throughout the summer. So we would, and we've been working with both the councilman's office and then the city attorney's office on some language that might accomplish that goal.
So will that language be added to
That
this,
will
or
be
should we
added
wait?
in G on page 6. You'll see about from lines 8 through 13. Hopefully your lines are numbered the same as mine. Talks about certificate required. There would be additional language to be, actually the last sentence says the aggregate time of display of such signs shall not exceed 60 days in any one calendar year. We would add another sentence there that allows exemption from that
For special events.
for community events.
Community
And the
events.
examples are blood drives and farmers markets and movie nights and those kinds of things, because obviously there would be times where those would be up more for longer periods of time. So
Do you advise us to obey this then until you
No.
add that? Just
No,
go ahead
I've got
and-
some sample language that I run by Jennifer, and we would simply add that as a First Amendment and pass it on to the council. There are a couple of other cleanup in that special event sign section. Sometimes we call them temporary special event signs, and sometimes special events. So I would go through and make them all, what's the word?
Consistent?
Consistent. Thank you very much. I'm glad you're here today. I would make them all consistent to say temporary special events.
Lawyers think alike. We use those words.
Okay.
So with that, we would recommend a do pass with the First Amendment.
All right. Mr. Councilman?
Yes, recommendation do pass with the First Amendment.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
Thank you.
That'll move accordingly. Nice to see you again. Moving to the next item, Bill number 2008-25 eliminates the requirement that a general business-related gaming establishment licensed to sell alcoholic beverages obtain a separate special use permit for the gaming use. Sponsored by Mayor Goodman.
Yes, committee members, this, the summary is pretty much explanatory of what's happening here. You'll recall that supper clubs and urban lounges, which I don't think we have any yet, but hope to, have the ability to have 5 slots, but they have to come in once for the liquor and once for the gaming. And the proposal to avoid that duplication is to say that they only have to come in the one time, understanding that they will get those slots if they're approved licensing-wise. Zoning-wise, they will get them, but they still have to be approved licensing-wise. There is a requirement when we amend this provision of the code that there be a public hearing before the entire council at which members or representatives of all non-restricted licensees, gaming licensees in the city can be heard. That will be held at your 21st meeting. So that may be where you get the comments on this, but as of right now, we're recommending approval of this.
I don't really understand it that well.
I don't understand it that well either. So when you say it's self-explanatory,
It
Okay.
really wasn't.
I'm sorry.
Right now,
Bring
if
that
you
down
have a
for me.
supper club,
Right.
you need to come in to get a special use permit to put your supper club in there because it's a liquor use.
that's correct.
If you like to have slot machines, you can have up to 5, but you have to come back to the Planning Commission and the City Council all over again and talk about the slot machines.
Correct.
And there is some thought by the mayor and members of both licensing and planning department that that's a duplication, that everyone pretty much understands that if you're going to have one, you're going to have the other.
Correct.
Obviously, you're free not to agree with that, but that's what the proposal is, to say if you're going to have a supper club, it's understood that you can have the slots, but you still have to, A, get the special use permit for the liquor, and B, you still have to satisfy all the licensing requirements as far as your suitability to be involved in gaming. So,
Okay. Today, let's speak about how the code exists today. You must apply for the beer and wine, and you must apply for the gaming separately, and both must go before Planning Commission and City Council for approval. Should the City Council remove the liquor license from an establishment, traditionally what has taken place in the past is the gaming has come in and taken away their gaming because they run it in alliance with the liquor. Fast forward, connecting the two, how in fact will this now play out with, in the event the council removes the liquor license and the Gaming Control Board controls the licensure of the gaming? How does that affect the new position?
I don't think you can have slots by themselves. I think you have to have an approved category of some kind, whether it's a hotel, whether it's a liquor establishment, whether it's one of the other establishments that allow gaming incidentally. Once that principal use is terminated, you can't just leave the slots there. They're going to go too. Whether you approve this or not, that's going to be true.
But that was the point that I was getting
Yeah.
at, to make sure that it's still in alliance with
Yeah.
the fact that the council moves to withdraw the special use permit for a liquor license, that the gaming will also follow that same license.
Right, you can have a supper club or an urban lounge without gaming, but you can't have the gaming without one of those two or some other convenience store, whatever else it is that is the principal use. You always have to have a principal use.
Correct. You can have a convenience store with liquor license, but you don't necessarily have to have gaming. However,
This
you
one
cannot
will not
have a
affect
convenience store with just gaming and no liquor license.
that. I don't know, but this certainly doesn't address that one way or the other.
Well, see, that's the question, and I'm following
Well,
what you're saying.
that's how it happens today. Every liquor license that we've pulled, gaming control has come in and taken out the gaming after we removed the liquor component. Because traditionally, and I don't know where to find this, but I know that this has happened on several occasions, in particular in Ward 5 where gaming existed. When we remove the liquor license, gaming comes in and takes their gaming also. They don't allow the gaming to stand without liquor being connected to it.
Yeah. I don't know whether they can or can't, but all I know is this ordinance won't change anything. Whatever would happen today will happen after this ordinance is adopted.
But what you're saying is you now have one SUP for liquor and
And
gaming.
that's how I'm reading this.
That's what he's saying, so you can't divide it. And I have an item on tomorrow's agenda, that one of them may, because of some dangerous situation for senior citizens, we may recommend to be taken away, the gaming.
Mhm.
They would still have their liquor, right? According to what the rules are now.
Mhm.
But if I recommended taking away the liquor,
The gaming would
would
automatically
automatically go.
Correct. That's how it is today.
And that won't change with this.
So
How
that's
can
what
it
I'm
not-
getting at. By the way I'm reading this is the special use permit will basically cover the liquor and the gaming.
One SUP
One
covers
SUP
both.
covers both.
One SUP covers both in that you can, it's like a supper club serves food and liquor.
Correct.
Am I right?
Yes.
You don't have to come get a use permit to serve food.
Correct.
It's understood that you'll serve food if you're asking for the liquor. Same thing here. You aren't saying, please, City Council, give me a special use permit for both liquor and gaming. They're saying,
Go back-
give me a
go back to the
special
food.
use permit for liquor, and understand that if I get it, I also get gaming.
Go back to the food.
Okay.
The scenario. You jumped too fast. You said go back to the food example that you're using in relation to the food and the liquor. Just repeat what you just said.
Okay. One of the things, when you have a supper club, you have food and you have,
You have to
liquor.
have a larger percentage of food served than liquor, right?
right, you have to
Correct.
ask permission for the liquor.
Correct.
You don't have to ask permission for the food.
Correct.
Okay, I'm just analogizing that to this.
I'm with you.
When you ask for, right now, you have to ask for both liquor and gaming special use permit. The proposal is that you just ask for liquor, understanding that coming with that is the ability to have 5 slots.
I sort of
Okay.
thought that we put a higher degree of
I'm with you.
credence on giving someone slots, a gaming license.
Well,
It's almost a higher level of,
Understand that this has nothing to do with their license. It only has to do with zoning. In other
Well-
words, do you want slots? That's what you do when you do the zoning. Hopefully that's what you do.
I'm with
You say, do we want slots here as a matter of zoning, not is this person
Suitable.
suitable for slots? And then what they're saying is, zoning-wise, should there be 2 different reviews for both supper clubs and slots?
And citizens are saying, just because we have illegal gambling in this state doesn't mean we need to have it everywhere. And now what we're doing is saying automatically, if you have the liquor license, automatically you have gaming.
Correct.
I think that's a
Well, some
problem.
citizens will say, I don't want slots anywhere. And those same people will complain whether you do this or not.
Yeah, well, they don't want slots, but you at least can show them a fairness in it. In other words, you can work with the people and you can explain that why you're doing what you're doing, and maybe they won't be happy, but they accept that certainly better than the fact that every time you give out a liquor license, slots go with
Slots
it.
go with it.
What they will say is every time, then that we have people against liquor licenses. Now we'll have far more against liquor licenses if they know that automatically that means gaming too.
Correct.
And I know that's a battle in the ward I represent.
Well, I think there are two ways for the committee to approach it. One is to, philosophically, if you have a problem with it, you're free to send it on without a recommendation, or send it on with a do not pass recommendation. The other thing to ask yourself is, have we not approved gaming in the past? Have we not approved 5 slots in the past for supper clubs? If the answer to that is yes, then it makes sense that you wouldn't want to do this. If
Well,
the
there may
answer
have
is
been
no,
times we
if
haven't,
the answer is
yeah.
no, then of course the argument is there.
I'm pretty sure that there has to be a time where we have not approved the gaming. For example, there may be, and I don't know this to be true, but there may be an Applebee's out there somewhere that only has food, where another Applebee's may have gaming because of the location was suitable.
That could occur, and I just remember that tomfoolery thing, the fact that they were going to have
That's
liquor
another
there.
example.
But it was gaming, bringing gaming into a mall. They really...
That's a very good example.
Yeah, it is an
I forgot
example,
about that.
yeah.
The Meadows Mall. Yeah.
I don't think I can support this as I understand it. I'm not against sending it on to the full committee, and probably will have enough strength maybe to get passed anyway. But I know that the people I represent would not be going for this.
Okay.
And I don't understand it either.
Yeah, I guess we could hold it abeyance and try and provide more information. But
Could
I
you do
suggest
that?
I suggest that if you don't think you're going to support it no matter what, the thing to do
Who's
would
the
be
driver?
to send it on.
Who's the driver on this ordinance?
Probably the mayor.
The mayor's the sponsor. I'm sure that there is either a presence in the downtown, because this is, in large part, it has to do with urban lounges, although it applies to both supper clubs and urban lounges.
Okay.
But there must be someone out there who is saying, we come before you twice, you approve us twice.
Well-
It's a duplication. I
well-
don't know who that might be.
Also, 2 things. Number one, in the entertainment district, we have an ordinance which states liquor only. So how will this work in the fact that if someone is approved for a liquor license, with this ordinance moving forward, should it be approved, now someone setting up shop in the entertainment district having this license with 5 slots, which in fact there's a order out zone as it relates to gaming in that area.
This isn't going to override any other law that applies.
I just think it would be nice to discuss it further and be sure about all of this. I mean, that's just my feeling. I think this is a big vote. I think this is something that if people are out there in the community and seeing things, this is not something you pass quickly. Just so we could understand it, so that when people ask us about it.
Okay.
Okay. And number 2, thank you for that response as far as not overriding an existing law. And number 2 is revenue. How much
That's what I was
revenue
going to ask.
are we
Yeah.
losing now combining the two, whereas before one would have to apply for the special use and one would have to apply for the gaming, which basically brings in revenue.
2 fees.
I
From
believe
both
that
sides.
you would lose an application fee for a special use permit. But my understanding is that the application for a special use permit is far less than the costs of administering one. Where you get your revenue is from the gaming. And that doesn't change. You're still going to have your gaming license, still go through the gaming license process. The only thing we're doing here is taking away one zoning application and the fee for that. And I can guarantee you those fees are a money loser because, the $300 or $500, whatever they are, they don't offset the cost of processing.
Gee willikers, we're raising the fees on other things in the district, on some of our other things we've been raising the fees.
The zoning fees?
No, I'm talking about
Okay.
other kinds of
Fees.
fees. During this budget crisis, there have been some,
Other related fees.
yeah, and I'm just wondering,
Yeah, I don't
How
think
much-
this is a money maker at all.
I'm just
Or you would
wondering if
have
the
planning
others
here
are a
saying, please don't
moneymaker.
take away our revenue.
You would have who say that?
Planning?
Well, did you want to make a motion?
My motion, Councilwoman, would be to move forward with a no recommendation and have further discussion with the full body of the council. That would be my recommendation.
And I would like to add to that, if I could, also further discussion with individual council members. Because sometimes in the large council meeting, you don't get to ask the questions you need to do because that's more controlled with how the council moves. Am I making sense?
Yes, you are. Yes, I agree with that. But getting back to one of the questions, if you've already answered it, I apologize, but I don't recall the answer. I see that the mayor is the sponsor, but how did this come into ordinance form? Who brought this forward?
I don't know.
You thought some of the downtown people might have.
Well, all I'm saying is most of the
Someone
zoning
has to.
ordinances that we have like this to reduce a process either come from planning, in which case Margot would have been
The sponsor.
the proposer, or in the case of a council person, it's usually because a constituent, as you know, has asked you to put something forward, and I just don't know who that might be.
Okay, so do we follow up with the sponsor to find out as far as the paper trail, or?
You certainly could, yeah.
And is the motion understood? It's for further discussion?
A recommendation.
Yeah, with the stipulation that there be more information provided to the council as a group and to the individual council members in a separate meeting with them.
Well, are you talking about information from staff, or what kind of information?
Well, I would have further questions. This is, this meeting here is the first that this came to my attention, and I'd like to talk more with people, yes. Information from staff.
But you're not asking that someone make a presentation to you.
Oh, no.
Okay.
I'm
You just want
asking that
further-
someone come
Okay.
and provide information to answer questions we might have.
All right, that's fine.
That's what I'm saying. I just don't want it to appear on the regular council meeting before we have a chance to individually ask the questions we might have. I will go back now and I will talk with people and get an idea of how they feel, and other questions I'm sure will come up. So you've got the motion. All in favor? Aye.
He said it.
All opposed?
I heard it. And I will point out again that what will happen on the 21st is in the morning session of your public hearings agenda will be that public hearing that I talked to you about, where Margaret will stand up there, say, I'm here to answer the questions. This is the time for a public hearing at which non-restricted gaming licensees can be heard. At that point, you may or may not have licensees get up and talk. Then that'll be closed, and then later on, the bill will come up and be eligible for adoption. Whether it gets adopted or not, it's certainly up to the entire council.
When does Margot get up and do that? Is this a special portion in the morning?
It'll be in the morning. You know the public hearings calendar where the abatements typically come up. It'll be on that calendar.
Right after consent,
Right.
before it needs amendments.
Okay.
And like I say, that's just that's a quirk of the gaming law that requires that separate public hearing. That's just informational. You don't need to worry about it.
No, I'm just thinking how, and I don't want to beat a dead horse. I'm just thinking how just having the two separate just works better. It's
Well, you can catch things more easily,
Yeah.
I think.
but we'll talk about that in further discussion. So thank
Very
you.
good.
Could I just ask quickly a question?
Sure.
Can you suspend someone who has a gaming license? Can you
Game
suspend?
Control Board.
No, but we handle the gaming license. I have an item coming up tomorrow.
We have our own gaming licensing
Right.
process, and the Gaming Control Board has an independent one.
Right, has an independent
So,
one.
We have the ability, I believe, to suspend privileged licenses, including gaming licenses, under the circumstances.
Well, if someone had
therein.
had a gaming license and had not followed through on conditions, but there might be a possibility that they could show responsibility. Rather than take it away, you could give them a chance for suspension, and in 6 months, say, they could maybe correct the problem. That's what I'm asking.
Right. The typical thing would be to put it on the agenda for a discipline. Only in an emergency can Jim DeFury suspend something. But typically, if they're not meeting conditions, you would put something in the nature of a show cause and have them come forward and explain what they're doing. That's what they want.
At the meeting?
Sure.
At the same meeting?
No.
Oh, at another meeting.
Right.
Okay. Okay, thank you. I didn't mean to digress there.
Not a problem.
Okay. Any other questions from staff or information to give? Margot, did you want to add anything?
Maybe we could
I've
talk
already
during the
got-
public comment.
You just fill me in on everything.
Well, now we are in our public comment, and first I'm going to ask, is anybody here from the public who wishes to speak? And then I'm going to ask if maybe Margot could answer some questions we have.
Yes, ma'am. Sorry, I was upstairs. Yes, ma'am.
Wanted to digress back to the item we just voted on,
Number 7.
number 7, without taking action, of course, and just for the sake of public comment. There are a number of questions that have come up as it relates to combining the liquor license with the gaming license, folded over into one process. Whereas today, you apply for a liquor license and you must go through the planning and city council process, just as the gaming must go through the planning and city council process. And with the proposed ordinance as it states today, we're possibly looking at merging the two, making it one seamless application process, for lack of a better term.
If I may, I wouldn't term it as that. That's certainly not the intention. The intention is that right now, the number of gaming machines that's allowed in a tavern or in a grocery store or in any facility is already set in the licensing code. So the number of games by use is in licensing. It doesn't have anything to do with land use. That isn't a land use issue with regard to the games. Right now, you get your liquor license SUP, and then you have to go and do your privileged license. So, in other words, the land use only says that that piece of land can be a tavern, or a supper club, or a gas station, or whatever it is. And you put all your conditions on the land use. Then, separately, what comes before the council is the privileged license on the human beings that get that liquor license. You also have a separate hearing on the privileged license at a Title VI for the person that has the games, whether they be 1 or 5 or 15, and you do that privileged license. On the tavern or on the SUP or on the whatever it is, usually it's taverns and supper clubs. The council may occasionally say, well, I'm okay with the tavern, but I only want to allow X number of games. And usually the discussion on games comes up on the tavern or the supper club. For instance, you'll do an on-sale license or an off-sale at a grocery store, and you don't get involved in talking about the number of games, because that's handled separately when they come through with their privileged license. So what happens is now you have a tavern that has certain conditions on it that goes through the land use process. The games are already implied by the tavern or the SUP. We all know that's what they're going for, right? Because there's just different conditions and different numbers of games. Then what happens is you'll have an old SUP, or you'll have an SUP that doesn't match, or you'll have different council people, or you'll just have ones that get disconnected. So I've got a tavern that says this many games, and I've got an SUP that says something else, and you have conflicting conditions. Our issue is that we would rather, since the discussion of the games goes when you've got the tavern application in front of you, or the supper club application in front of you, that you be considering the land use implications at one time. because that's what they're always talking about. And that this would allow those conditions to be placed on the land use at one time, and I don't have two separate SUPs that are two different land use decisions which really only speak to the same location. You still see the operator, that privileged license on who is operating it, still comes before you at a separate public hearing. If it's a different licensee for the tab or the liquor and a different licensee for the gaming, then you see those separately also. So you still have two hearings, one on the land use and one on the operator, the privileged licensee. So that's the issue, is that right now we have a lot of SUPs or non-SUPs. I've got a tavern with conditions and I've got an SUP with no conditions because it predates the tavern or the supper club. So there's no connection between the two separate SUPs, and they're saying two separate things.
The second question that came up was in relation to revenue. The SUP for the liquor and the SUP for the game. As far as application.
He's just talking about the fees.
The
Yeah,
fees.
it's a few $100.
Right. And merging the two, does it adjust the price? Is it still the same price as though it's one?
No, I mean, again, the $500 that covers usually around 20% of the staff costs. So the money is negligible.
Okay.
No land use entitlements come anywhere close to covering the staff costs. This is not a revenue issue. What it is a conflict issue where we've got so many cases of disjointed SUPs out there.
Where did this start? Who started this? That they wanted this done? I know the mayor is
I recall
sponsoring-
there's several cases, I'd have to look it back up, but we've got several cases in the downtown area, older ones, where we've got this exact condition, where I've got a tavern SUP with different conditions than the gaming SUP.
So it started in planning because of the older district? Is that where it came? Somebody had to
I
bring
believe it came up out of OBD, working on different
OBD.
cases in the redevelopment area where it was discovered that they've got an operator over here and then they've got an operator over here and we've got this disjointed stuff. That was my recollection. It was some of the taverns or the cases that they work on facilitating in OBD with their fast track team.
Do we have the opportunity with the merger, the proposed merger, I'm calling this ordinance a merger, to regulate whether or not a location may have one and not the other?
Sure. There's taverns where you say you can't have gaming.
Under this proposed ordinance, will we have the opportunity to in fact do that?
Sure.
So it doesn't take away our right to still...
No, because, again, almost always the discussion comes up. I mean, you've both seen this, and you've all seen this. When the person comes through and they want that tavern license, what they want is the ability to have 15 games and not have to have food.
Right.
That's what they want. That's what it's all about. It's not about we don't want food. It's we don't want food and we want the 15 games. So that's what I'm saying. The whole the focus, in the neighborhood and the discussion and the whole idea of how many games go in this location at this use comes up on the liquor application. It doesn't come up on the gaming application because the land use, it's just a phenomenon in our code which doesn't occur other places. See, I didn't have this in non-gaming places because you don't have a number of games that's attached in another title, here Title VI, that goes along with that tavern issue. But because it's hooked up with the tavern issue, and again, we've seen this all the time, why can't you just do a supper club, or why can't you do a restaurant service bar? It's about the games. So to us, once this came to our attention, I'd much rather have that whole discussion in front of you. What are the hours going to be? Are there going to be food service? How many games is it going to be? What's going to occur in that location? So you have the discussion at one time. Because, again, at what we've seen is we've got different ones hanging out there, and sometimes, and we've got this and we've found other ones, where there's an SUP sitting out there for the gaming, and then somebody new comes in, and then they want to expand or something, and they've got this old SUP out there that's still valid. And again, it just seemed to us that the discussion is always when you've got that tavern or that supper club or that restaurant service
So
bar
you're all
in front of
looking
you.
it into one thing, which is the use of that land. In other words,
That's all it is, zoning-wise. Again, all of the stuff with the license and the person and the background and all of that, is in Title VI, which still comes before you as a separate item. And that SUP that runs with the land, okay, those conditions that you place on it, no matter how many times the owner changes, those conditions are still over there, but at least I've got them in one location instead of two locations.
Gotcha. Okay.
But you've still got, again, to me, there's already two hearings, because there are. There's the land use hearing, and then there's the human being hearing on that privilege license.
Understand.
Okay?
okay, any other comment from the
And
audience?
again, I apologize, it
The
wasn't-
meeting